From the Digital Media Center on the campus of Southern Oregon University in Ashland, Oregon. This is Ramping Up Your English, an educational program for intermediate level English language learners. Here's your host for Ramping Up Your English, John Letts.
Welcome to Ramping Up Your English. Ramping Up Your English is an instructional support program for intermediate level English learners. If you've already passed the beginning stages of learning English and you want to reach higher levels of English proficiency, this program is designed to meet your needs and get you closer to your goal. Ramping Up Your English is for English learners from all language backgrounds and for people of all ages. We take a content-based approach to helping you reach higher levels of English proficiency. Our current thematic unit is Native Americans. This is segment 1 of episode 89. In our last episode, we learned about early American city of Cahokia, a city built atop earthen mounds that still rise above the surrounding countryside. Cahokia was the largest city north of Mexico for hundreds of years, yet it was only one of many cities of the Mississippian culture. This culture extended west to present-day Oklahoma, but there were people further west that built great cities as well. In episode 87, we saw the epic migrations that gave us the great cultures in the east, and that was part 1 of our 4th video in a series about Native Americans, which I named Ancestors. Let's watch part 2 of Ancestors and learn about Native Americans in the Southwest.
What people left these ruins in the American Southwest? Why did they build these cities, only to abandon them? The story is worth telling. In this region we know as New Mexico and southern Colorado, Native American tribes have existed here for thousands of years, hunting to feed their families, and moving on each year as part of their nomadic life. The hunters who followed the change in climate pursued their new prey in this region. They're known today as the Mimbres culture, known for the pottery they left here. Agriculture in this region had long been pursued as a backup to the ways of hunting and gathering. By the year 300, the growing of corn became the main activity for feeding a growing population. We see evidence of this change in Chaco Canyon. The city here became central in this region's economy, flourishing as a trade and religious center, and sustained by farming. Chaco Canyon was developed by the concerted efforts of the people who lived here. In all ways of measure, Chaco Canyon was a success. Residents occupied the city for generations. Their lives centered on the cultivation, trade, and utilizing the kiva, a round-shaped space below the surface. Chaco Canyon connected to other parts of the region via an extensive system of roads. Regional control was firmly established here, supporting a considerable population. Severe drought from 1130 to 1180 resulted in rapid depopulation. The system collapsed, and many Chacoans moved north to Mesa Verde. Today, Chaco Canyon is a National Historic Park. When the road is dry, the site is accessible to see and to reflect on the people who once lived here and the intriguing ruins they left behind. A poignant reminder that nothing lasts forever. The land in New Mexico is marked by deep river canyons and flat-topped mesas. In southern Colorado, these tabletops are green with vegetation. Thus the name for this area is Mesa Verde, the Spanish for green mesa. For archaeologists, Mesa Verde means much more than a feature of the land. Mesa Verde is the ruins of a people called the Anasazi. When the society in Chaco Canyon collapsed, many of the Chacoans moved north to Mesa Verde. People here built an impressive culture, farming corn, beans, and squash, and utilizing the cliff faces during their occupation of this area for a place to live. The layers of rock, plus the building practices of the Anasazi, provided defensible shelter. The people of Mesa Verde achieved stability by growing corn and other crops, kept watered by a well-engineered irrigation system. They built their homes atop the mesa, where they could keep a close watch on their precious crops. The closeness of their homes to each other speaks of the sense of community. Today, ruins of Anasazi structures are found throughout the region. Over time, the mortar that held the stones together has weathered away. As the population grew, pit houses were constructed in the cliff. This construction expanded into extensive building deep into the shelter of the cliff. Mesa Verde architects constructed massive multi-storied buildings. The ruins of these dwellings can be seen when looking at the cliff face. Mesa Verde survived the long drought that caused Chaco Canyon culture to collapse. These areas remained occupied during that time. This ruin is called Spruce Tree House and is part of Mesa Verde National Park. This site is protected and is made available for visitors to see and to ponder the mystery of these Pueblo ancestors. Visitors are welcome to walk among these ruins and learn about these resourceful people who supported a population here of thousands. Cliff Palace is among the most extensive and best preserved of the ruins. Multi-story houses and storage areas share the site with round open kivas, their roofs long collapsed. Some doorways are keyhole-shaped, for reasons unknown. Some areas function as astrological clocks, spiral shapes that receive direct sunlight during key seasons of the year. These structures are believed to comprise an astronomical observatory. The people of Mesa Verde lived full and busy lives. The everyday chores of survival and the making of things, objects like baskets and pottery. Cliff House was often abuzz with activity on the surface and below in the kivas. Baskets were among the first objects produced in this region, always utilitarian, yet produced artistically as well. Mesa Verde's golden age saw pottery production with certain patterns unique to their culture. Black and white alternate patterns were typical of Mesa Verde artists. Seeing the ruins of a kiva is to look into the heart of Mesa Verde's culture. Numerous kivas were constructed at Cliff Palace. Kivas represented the underworld from which these people emerged according to their creation story. This hole in the center represents a navel. The remaining structures allowed air circulation and heat transfer. It's believed that secret societies met in kivas. At any rate, religious rituals were performed there and are still observed in the kivas of their descendants, Pueblo people. Over 700 years ago, the people of Mesa Verde abandoned this place. Increased population, a long drought, and over-reliance on corn are likely reasons, but no one knows for certain. Perhaps it's that uncertainty, that mystery, that draws thousands of tourists here each year. There may be something about what appears to be an apartment complex, found unexpectedly in the face of a cliff, that people just have to see for themselves. See and feel as tourists climb ladders to walk through a section called Badger House. The people who lived here for all these years had no such access. They climbed up and down using shallow footholds chipped directly into the rock. There is a sense at these ruins that you have to come here and see them for yourself in order to get your mind around the ingenuity of these seemingly vanished people. This map shows the main areas of these ancient farmers of the Southwest. And this poster shows the great change people went through over thousands of years. Megafauna hunters, early farmers, great builders, and ancestors to people who still practice some of their ways.
You're watching Ramping Up Your English. This is segment 2 of episode 89. It's important to note that the video we just watched was the second part of a longer video entitled Ancestors. The credits at the end of today's section pertain to the entire video, even the first part that we saw in an earlier episode. Now, one of the themes in social studies is that of location. In a previous episode, we used prepositions to establish sequence. Prepositions can also fix events in space as well as time. Now, when I say space, I mean location. So let's see how prepositions can establish actions, events, and situations in locations. Now, in the previous video, we saw images of Chaco Canyon. This is in a region we call the Southwest. Chaco Canyon was the center of a vast trading network, and it's believed that the people of Chaco Canyon controlled the exchange of turquoise. Now, the simple preposition in can tell us where this situation was located. Chaco Canyon is located in the Southwest. The word in is the preposition, and in the Southwest is the prepositional phrase. It tells us where this civilization was located. Now, Chaco Canyon's influence was felt throughout the region of the Southwest. Throughout the region and of the Southwest are both prepositional phrases that identify the location of this dominance. Now, roads fanned out from Chaco Canyon to other cities in the region. From and to are both prepositions. From Chaco Canyon and to other cities are both prepositional phrases. When the economy of Chaco Canyon collapsed, Chacoans moved to Mesa Verde and other communities in the region. Of Chaco Canyon and to Mesa Verde are both prepositional phrases fixing the locations of these events. So is in the region. So the prepositions in, to, from, of, and throughout are common prepositions of location. The preposition on is also commonly used for the same purpose, as in they planted crops on the mesas. Prepositions and prepositional phrases can help us identify where actions, events, and situations take place. In the following video, let's see if you can spot the prepositions and identify the locations to which they point us.
Well, the fact is that they figure there were at least 4 migrations, and I couldn't give you a date on the first one, but just the artifacts that are here tell you it was a long time ago. And they came over and probably settled as the ice was melting in an area that wasn't icy. And the world looked a whole lot different than it does now. Just in the Columbia River Basin area, there was the end of the glacier was there, and as it got warmer and the melting occurred, huge lakes were formed over in eastern Oregon and Idaho. And when the, I guess the dam broke in the lake, it just had tremendous water coming down. They called it the Spokane Flood. But they think that there were some people living there before this flood occurred. And of course here, there have been the excavations here and out in Paisley, where the archaeologist students from Oregon State have been there 2 or 3, maybe more times doing excavations. So they keep, pushing this time clock back. It's just amazing.
We know that America had mammoths, and we know that at one time Oregon had saber-toothed tigers. So did the first Americans encounter saber-toothed tigers?
They possibly could have. We know that the mammoths were here, and in relation to saber-toothed tigers, I'm not sure historically where they come about, but that's how they determined that the Clovis Point was used for hunting mammoths, because the cache of bones that they found had Clovis points in them. So they knew that they were hunting with the Clovis point. And they really are spear points. Big spear points were found with bones of the woolly mammoth. Here in Klamath Falls and Klamath County, the farmers are always turning up ancient camel bones. So we knew that camels were part of it. And as far as that is concerned, I can't really tell you any more than that with regard to the types of animals who were here, except we assume from the bones that were left, certainly bird bones, small animal bones, and the way they were living around these giant lakes, which Cougar Mountain Cave at the time was right on the edge of a huge 300-mile lake. And they lived in these little rock shelters that were just, normally made by weather. And right outside their door, they had this huge lake with fish and birds, and the animals came down to drink. And so it was probably I guess you might say, easy living at that point, because everything was here for them. And if you notice, the sandals that are up there have mud in them, so that they would just go right out and walk in the lake and get whatever they needed. So they had the birds' nests and eggs and all of those kinds of things.
Fish was the mainstay of the diet of Central Oregon's Native American population. Fish were the starting place for the seasonal rounds that were made for sustaining the tribe.
The Native Americans stayed here until the fish run was basically over, or they had all they needed, but they were so aware of the seasons of change and what grew during that particular portion of the year, they would know where the next gathering place was. It might be berries, it might be roots, it might be any number of things that were important to them, which in this case is wokus, which is the water lily that grows on all of these lakes around here, which makes sense because that was one of their main foods. And so they knew at what time in the fall those berries were ready to be harvested.
You're watching Ramping Up Your English. This is segment 3 of episode 89. The whole idea of Ramping Up Your English is to help viewers who are beyond the beginning levels of English proficiency, help them improve their English skills. Now, this content-based approach organizes our instruction around academic content units, like this social studies unit on Native Americans. Now, I am no expert on this content. I simply try to introduce content to viewers that they would likely encounter in school or in lifelong learning. Now, some parts of this content may not agree with other parts. I found that especially with pre-Columbian Native American history, there's a massive amount of controversy as well as some strongly held beliefs in various conspiracy theories. Well, I avoid those fringe theories, although even material that's considered mainstream may have biases. If you're in school, you may indeed find inconsistencies and inaccuracies. My main focus is to help you develop the language skills to function in this challenging content. Now, the more you read, the more likely you are to get a diversity of viewpoints. Reading will also help connect what you hear with the way words are represented in writing. This eyewitness book is about Native Americans. The incorporations of pictures can help readers connect these images with the words and phrases, helping make the content more comprehensible. You can then build on this level of comprehension as you take in more input through further reading, listening, and watching videos on this subject. Just be aware that many sources of information on Native Americans are being re-evaluated for accuracy. Now, another interesting book on Native Americans is this book on the Anasazi. You'll find a lot in this production that reinforces the video we showed earlier. There are both words and images that tell the story of these remarkable people. Now, this book on Mesoamerica, or actually Mesa Verde, further reinforces what we've seen and heard about this intriguing archaeological site. Learn more about these books on my website at letscreate.org. You'll learn the titles, publishers, authors, and the ISBNs that can help you locate them. They may be as close as your local library. And with that, we end segment 3. I love to hear from viewers. You can send me email at letscreatepro@gmail.com. Be sure to visit my website, letscreate.org, to see the support materials for this episode, including the videos we feature. Click on the link to the Native American unit on the home page and navigate to the episode 89 page. Now, you can watch and even download this episode and more from archive.org/details/roguetv. All episodes are there. Enter Ramping Up Your English in the text box and choose the episodes you want. Ramping Up Your English can be seen on RVTV on Channel 15 on the Ashland Home Network and on Channel 182 in the rest of Southern Oregon on Charter Cable. You can stream Ramping Up Your English for free from rvtv.sou.edu. I want to thank my director, Denise Ross, and my talented and dedicated crew, and I want to thank you, our viewers. All of you help make this program an award winner. Join me next time for Ramping Up Your English. I'm John Letts.
You've been watching Ramping Up Your English, a support program for intermediate level English language learners. Learn more. Visit our website at letscreate.org. You can also watch or download today's program at archive.org/details/roadtv. Join us next time on RVTV Voices for Ramping Up Your English.